Hey, welcome back to another exciting episode of Yomo. This is the Year of Magical Learning podcast. So today we are on reflection 333. You know,
Oh, that's great. Creepy.
it's three, three P.
Yeah, that's
Three
I
P, three times.
didn't know that. Yeah, this book today is it's a book called Very, Very, Very Dreadful: The Influenza Pandemic of 1918 by the author Albert Marin. And
So how you end up picking this book?
I don't know actually. I honestly I don't remember how this came across my path. But obviously given COVID over the past couple of years, like I was like, oh, it's be kind of interesting to learn about the pandemic of 19 pandemics past. A lot of the books that I've read over this journey have been about like bacteria and viruses. And I just finished that book about CRISPR, the called the Code Breaker with
You read that one?
yeah, it was good.
So did you know that the vaccine was made using CRISPR?
Yep. Yeah. Well, I learned that in the book. It's not really a vaccine. It's actually a
No, the vaccine for the COVID was made
I know.
using Jennifer's CRISPR.
No, I know, but like CRISPR edited stuff is not it's not an actual vaccine. It's
not a vaccine. It's
right.
CRISPR.
Right.
CRISPR is like a scissor.
Yes, yeah. CRISPR.
CRISPR is a tool.
Edited.
A tool.
Edited.
That's what I'm saying. Is the vaccine was made using CRISPR.
But I'm saying it's not a vaccine. It wasn't the whatever they made. What is it called? It's mRNA or
mRNA.
Yeah. It's not technically a vaccine. What they made the thing for COVID. It was whatever CRISPR editing of a DNA or yeah.
They made they make COVID.
It makes COVID go away is all that you need to know. But it's a different thing than how a vaccine works.
It's not traditional. It's not a traditional vaccine. Johnson Johnson is the traditional vaccine.
Correct. Yeah.
The Pfizer and the other one, there were two of them. They're using the mRNA method, which isn't really traditionally a vaccine concept.
Yes, that's exactly it. So it's an mRNA is what it's called. But it was used it was used by CRISPR, right? We'll talk about that stuff in the future. But then you have books like I Contain Multitudes, and you have the fungi book, and you have what other all the drug books. The one about 10 drugs, was focused a lot about viruses and then you had the book about not the Alchemy of Air, but the Demon Under the Microscope, which is about bacteria, and then it was also about childbed fever in like the 1800s. And I don't know, I've just read a lot of books about bacteria and microbiomes and viruses. And you remember the book about Ebola, what was that one called? The Hot Zone. You remember that one? The Hot Zone. It was about Ebola, the Ebola outbreak that never happened in the United States. It should have. That was contained. Anyway, so there's been a lot of lot of books on this journey that's been about this stuff. So I think probably my algorithm now on Amazon is like, oh, you might like this book about disease and plague and famine, and I'm like,
okay.
That's probably how.
I mean, you're looking for the 6 extinctions. You're looking for like the end of humanity. Looking for the next pandemic.
Right. So I think that's probably how this one came across my path. But either way, it's about exactly like what it says, right? So it's the 1918 influenza pandemic and killed 500 million people, or a third of the global population at the time. Came down with the pandemic, and somewhere between 50 to 100 million people died. It was a really bad pandemic. I just thought it'd be interesting to learn about it. So
Mhm.
the moral, the funny thing about this book, actually, it kind of started it all this off with this reflection. If this book had been written, if I had read this book, you know, let's just say anytime before 2020, and anytime before Amelia, I would have probably said like, holy shit, like I jokingly said the title of this reflection would have been very, 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 very frightening, you know, because I would have been like, oh my God, like this is coming for us. Like eventually this is gonna happen, you know. Like I mean, it's like it's just a matter of time, you know, before this happens, and like everything that these people are going through, it's like, holy shit, I can't even imagine what's gonna happen, right? Blah 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 blah, right? You know, after Amelia and after COVID and after all the things we've been through the past few years, I kind of finished this book and I was like, meh, whatever, bring it on. You know, it's fine. I was like, it is what it is, you know, and I don't mean that to be like I'm inviting, you know, pain and suffering and whatever into my life. It's just like we talked about this yesterday, like paradigms on life. It's look, I've seen bad shit, you know, and I've, you know, and I understand what life is. I understand what my purpose is these days, right? And what I'm here for and how I'm going to enjoy every moment that I can of this life. And you know, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. It's like it's that goes back to the black swan, or you know, whatever else, right? You can't control this stuff. I mean, like it doesn't matter how much. Yeah, we can do a little bit, you know, with technology to maybe lessen the impact of stuff. You know, like CRISPR, like we're talking about, is an amazing discovery. But I mean, do you know what CRISPR? I mean, it sounds like you know a decent amount about it. Do you know how like do you know what CRISPR is, I guess, and how it was discovered?
Yeah, it's DNA splicing
Yeah, but do you know?
bacteria.
Yes, exactly. Yes, this
So
is
we didn't invent
we
shit.
didn't invent anything. Yeah, we just
Bacteria
observed
invented
and
for
found it.
us. When you say, "Hey, I found it," I mean, the thing is,
Yep.
the way CRISPR was found, that was really, like everything else, very unconventional. It's not what you think, right? The people who found it are not like even like doing the same study or doing anything that closely relating to like biology or anything like that. It's just like, hey, you know, this is something I just found, like penicillin or whatever. This is something that over like million of years, some species have evolved to find a way to protect itself, right?
Yep.
And so you borrow from bacteria, and bacteria learns how to
Protect against viruses. This is how they do it. Yeah.
splice DNA, right?
Right.
And
Yep.
you basically, the thing is, when you use CRISPR, you actually just put a piece of the bacteria in there to splice whatever DNA you want.
Yep.
And so you actually using the bacteria to actually splice it, the DNA, the gene for you. You actually don't actually physically splice it.
Yeah, you don't do
put
anything.
something
It just right. Yeah, it does what it
put a
naturally
bacteria in
does. Right.
there. But
Right.
just like,
It's
hey, you put yeast into sugar, you have alcohol. It's like, oh,
yeah.
I made alcohol. No, you
Right.
did.
Yeah.
You didn't make shit. You just put bacteria and your yeast, right, and alcohol and sugar, and then here comes the bacteria, the yeast created
Yep.
these bacteria. Like they eat the sugar. It
That's
wastes
exactly right.
I mean, so you don't make alcohol. You don't splice shit. You just, hey, I put a bacteria in there and it just spliced for me. Okay, and then I took it out.
That's what it did. It's how it naturally works. You know, the there's a book I we haven't talked about like you and I, just even outside of the podcast yet, and we haven't got to it obviously because it'll be way down the road. I just finished it, maybe like I think I finished it when I was in Puerto Rico, so earlier this month. And it was this book called Who Ate the First Oyster? Did I tell you about this book?
No, no.
It was so good. So it was about it was like 10 or 15 different like firsts of humanity, of like, you know, here I'll have to tell you the chapters.
Somebody had to eat something first.
Yeah, right, yeah. Oops. The I don't have the actual thing in front of me, but it's like God damn it, hang on, I'll pull it up off my phone. It's such an interesting book. But it's about it's about people discovering shit, basically, exactly like what you were talking about, right? So this book is Who Invented Inventions, Who Discovered Fire,
who captured the first camera.
The first camera?
Yeah, who took the picture of the first camera?
I think that was close. It was who painted the first masterpiece, the world's first masterpiece. Who performed the first surgery? Who drank the first beer? Who first discovered the Americas? Who first rode the horse? Who invented the wheel? Who was the first? Who was the murderer in the first murder mystery? Who was the first person whose name that we actually know? Who discovered soap? Who caught the first case of smallpox? Who told the first joke that we ever know? Who shot the first arrow? Who invented clothing? Who ate the first oyster? Who discovered fire? And who invented inventions? So it goes back in time to like to dissect like how these things even came to be and how we discovered what we discovered, and the first people that kind of like fire, like it's like to your point of like CRISPR or beer, right? Beer breaking down, they just left out their plate of oats or barley or rye or wheat, barley or rye, and it started to break down, and then I drank it the next morning. They were like, oh well, this is safe and it's hearty, and so it's like, so we have beer. It wasn't like they tried to, like I said, make alcohol or all these other things. Anyway, we're down a rabbit hole already. But long story short,
it's all right.
what I'm getting at is, before the pandemic, like a lot of these things would have like just terrified me, even just thinking about this stuff. But the more that we've learned about the universe, the more that we've learned about what we care about, the more we've learned about like why my purpose is and why I'm here. And same thing for you. And I can't speak for you, but I know that like, I don't know, I'm not scared about this stuff anymore, like, and I don't really give a shit. Like, this is just how the world works. It's going to either happen, stuff's going to happen, or it's not going to happen. Like, do I want it to? Of course not. Like, do I want to bring pain and suffering into my life? Of course not. But like, this is how the world works, right? Like, and the more that we understand, the more that we know, the more that we can live our lives the way that we want to live our lives. And that's that, right? Well, this book in particular, then, so if this reflection really isn't about the influenza pandemic, if you've lived through the past few years of COVID and you're still here, which, it wasn't like it killed hundreds of millions of people or something. So, I mean, it's feel horrible for anybody whose lives it did claim, but exactly what happened over the past few years is exactly what happened during the 1918 pandemic, almost to a T. Except for the only difference was there was a World War I was going on. That was actually how it spread. That was like the biggest catalyst to spreading. It was in the trenches, trench warfare, and dudes away at war. So there's nothing I can teach you that this book taught me that we didn't already learn. You saw firsthand over the past few years. So we don't talk about the book. However, the author did talk about one thing in this book that I thought was really, really interesting. He said the actual real star of the pandemic of 1918 was something he called TLC, right? You know what that stands for, right?
TLC?
Yeah.
10-11
Yeah, exactly. So
Okay.
he goes, that was the real star of the 1918 pandemic, because that was when nurses rose to prominence. They were never really like utilized in the way that you think that they're utilized today. Back then, right? Like back then, they really didn't have a whole lot of seat at the table at all. They just kind of did whatever needed to be done, and they weren't really a big part of medicine. I mean, and just in general, like nurses just are kind of a modern thing, I don't really know the history of nursing, but like this is from what this guy was saying in this book. Like it really, this was the time when they elevated themselves to status of actual hero. Like how you remember back in the pandemic, the COVID pandemic, right? People just every medical professional walking to and from, watching the news, and people are just cheering for them everywhere they go, and raising signs and flags and whatever, and offering them support. I mean, this is when this really started to rise to prominence, was honoring how heroic these people really are. And he was saying that the TLC was really the number one thing that came out of the pandemic, because they never really solved it, right? They didn't have CRISPR technology then. They didn't have whatever. They just had people to try to help care and ease people's pains, and be brave enough to do that. And that's what nurses stepped up and did. Not only did they do that for the flu, they did, or for the pandemic, they did it for soldiers as well. And it made me start to reflect on my experience with nurses, and like I mean, I owe them my two children, honestly. I mean, like, no, there's no way in hell without their tender loving care that Amelia or Luca, would have ever had a chance of life in this world, let alone Amelia having 39, incredible days here in this earth, and Luca being almost 3 now and thriving, right? Like, I mean, there's just no way they would even exist without, I saw them, watch them every single day, devote endless amounts of attention and hours and time and love and patience and everything they did for my children. Like, I couldn't have done it. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, I mean, I don't think I could have done it. Like, I owe them pretty much everything, and their tender loving care is what I think is the only reason why my kids are here. To be honest with you, yes, doctors played a big role in this stuff, but they really weren't around. I mean, it was 99% of the time it was just the nurses. I mean, it's always just the nurses, right? And I even though I only spent 92 days with some of these nurses in the hospital, with Luca, and 39 days with Amelia, like, I swear to you, there's some of the people that I have the deepest connections with that I've ever met in my entire life. Just watching them do what they do, having them, the impact they've had on my family, and they truly are, I don't know. There's something about nurses and caregivers like that really does make a difference. And that was the impact on humanity is this is why humans are great, in my opinion. Like, this is our
The saving grace.
yeah, right, yeah, kind of.
It's
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
it's like you guys suck, but okay, you still have something
yep.
worth keeping.
Our natural vaccine of caring for each other helps us to survive, right? And there's something to that. And that's why the title of this one is The Rose of No Man's Land. So I'll end this one with, there's this poem that soldiers apparently used to say in the War of World War One. It was called The Rose of No Man's Land. And it goes like this. So there's a rose that grows in no man's land, and it's wonderful to see. Though it's sprayed with tears, it'll live for years in my garden of memory. It's the one red rose that soldiers knows. It's the work of master's hands. Mid the war's great curse stands the Red Cross nurse. She's the rose of no man's land. And I mean, this is like a true poem that they would sing, about, like, they these people matter, and, like, helping each other matters, and that's how we survive and endure, and that's how humans do it. I mean, bacteria did it by CRISPR. We do it by TLC. I don't know, man. That's how I see it, right? So love to get your thoughts.
Yeah, I think as a human, this is our core. I guess our core need is for that connection, that TLC, whatever you want to call
Yep.
it. Well, for us, is the TLC is this caring for another person. That is something that human yearn for, and because you are in a state of and when you're in a war, right, and when you injure, right, your life will leave you at any moment. So you look for what it is most important to you, which is that connection with another person.
Yep.
And like I said, the core need of a human person is to have the I guess the feeling. I don't know. It makes you feel warm inside.
Yep.
That feeling of somebody. I mean, even
Makes you
when
feel like you're not alone.
yeah. I mean, that's why people are very afraid to die alone, because because then when you are on your deathbed, you don't think about how much more money you're gonna make, how much more, you know, whatever that we are trying to get today. We don't think about it because that is not it's not pressing, right? When it's
Right.
not pressing, we don't think about what matters to us. We think about what matters in terms of society. But when you're on your deathbed and you're ready to leave life, this is when you throw away everything else you ever thought you knew about what life should be, and think about what life is. And every single man boils down to this moment of, okay, I need somebody. I mean, I don't need money, I don't need cars, I don't need I don't need anything. I don't
Status,
need
you know.
I don't need I don't need status. I don't need, whatever. I just need somebody to be here the moment I pass on. And for whatever reason, that's what we need. And I don't know understand it, but that's something that I think every single person yearns for and desires and fears that they don't have it.
Hmm?
And I think, and for a lot of people, for these nurses, and like I say, for me and you, we probably can't be a nurse because we just don't have that
Yeah.
that gene that
I don't. Yeah. I mean, I don't. I mean, I can't. I can't. I can make sure that your needs are taken care of, your physical needs. I can't make sure that your psychological needs are taken care of. And like, there's something different about that. Like, like that book, The Five Invitations that we talked about a couple, books back.
Mhm.
Like, I couldn't do that. I could not sit there and watch thousands of people die right in front of me.
Yeah, so that's
Like,
what I'm saying is it requires a genuine person
yeah,
to become a nurse, to be that nurse, to be a nurse that is that the nurse that you praise. I mean, there are some nurses that are not supposed to be nurse, but there are most nurses
they're called
that
doctors. I'm serious. Like, the doctors have the worst bedside manner that I've ever seen in my life. Almost all of them to a T. Like, it's they couldn't be more unnurse like. Like, nurses like are.
I mean, I think that's what I'm saying is they are built that way.
Yeah.
Right. And like I said, beaver must dam, a beaver must be beaver. Like these nurses, they have to be built to be nurses. It's very, to me, if you are not built to be a nurse and you somehow become a nurse, that is probably the hardest
Torture.
job you
Torture.
ever. But you think about it, like you see pain everywhere you go,
All day.
everywhere,
All
all day
day.
long, every day. And so even just for a few days, you're gonna be drained emotionally and physically. You're gonna be drained. I mean, some of these nurses are like they've been nurses for 10 years, 20 years, all their life, and sometimes the work shifts as 12-hour shifts, right?
Oh,
To me,
it's
emotionally
always
and
12-hour shifts.
yeah, emotionally and physically, I cannot do it. I
Yeah.
can't I can't. I mean, for me to see one person like in pain, it drains me. And so, like I said, it takes a very, very special build of a person to be a nurse. And I mean, I praise the nurses for their ability to do that. I just don't have the ability to
I don't
do
either.
that. And I'm built different. I'm built for something else. Like I said, beaver must dam. I can't do something that I'm not built for.
Yep.
But thank
You're
God there are
yeah.
there are other people who
Yes.
are.
Yeah. I mean, and for TLC, I mean, you and I think, we did not build Club and E to make this with TLC as one of our core values. Like, I mean, it's not gonna be like this is not that environment. This is, you know, the to your point, like that is not who we are, and that's okay. Like I promise you, the most traumatic thing that I probably will ever go through, I mean, knock on wood, but like, I mean, in my entire life is what we experienced with Amelia every single day, the roller coaster that was life and death in that place every single day. I have their names in here: Stacy, Lori, Joni, Raina, Jessica, Charity, Molly, Emily. Like, these are people that every single day were there with me, every single day. That 12 hours a day shifts, like you said, dealing with the same thing that I was dealing with, but they didn't stop. Like, mine ended, right? When Amelia and our journey ended, and then, after Luca left the NICU, that wasn't traumatic really. Like, his whole experience it would be traumatic for 99% of other parents, but after we'd already been through what we'd been through with Amelia, like, that was kind of just like, it was kind of annoying is what it was, really, to be honest with you. Like, it was like, we all know that he's gonna be fine. Like, let's just get the fuck out of here. Like, I don't want to fucking be in this place anymore, but I still appreciated all the care that they gave Luca, but it was more of a, I don't know, what I experienced with Amelia, like, and watching what they do. Here's the thing is, I got to leave. Like, even though I'm still scarred for life, like, for this, I think about it every single day. It's burned into my fucking memories. I can't unknow it. I can't figure out how to let go of that. And this is what they do every day. I asked them so many
Right.
times, how do you do this every day? How do you absorb all of this pain, suffering, trauma? You know,
I
and
mean, they have a
keep
big
going.
heart. They have a
I
big heart. I mean, just like if somebody asks you, "Hey, Chris, how do you keep reading every single day? How do you keep writing every single day? How do you live for two every single day?" They can't do it because they don't have the capacity. But I'm saying is these nurses, they are built for that. So
They are.
to me, it is tough from our perspective, but for them, because they have the faculty to do that, to me, they probably, wouldn't want to do anything else,
No, no. I mean,
right?
do you
Because
know
the
any
thing is,
nurses like
because you
personally?
think about it, if a person has the ability to give, right? If they have so much ability to give this TLC and they could not give it, what would that do? Let's say you have
So true.
a bunch of
Right.
money, right? But you can't spend it. What would it do to you? If you let's say you have this like full, like completely, like all the secrets of the world, that maybe you say, hey, true, you are suffering with this and that. I know the answer, but you can't share it. If you know all the answers in the world, right? If you're this wise person, it's like you are blessed. Now, let's say God comes down to you, hey, I ordain you with the gift of wisdom, and you know everything, whatever problem would anyone have, whatever pain that anyone have, you have that capacity to solve and to ease the pain of people, but you can't do it. How would that make you feel? It is
Horrible.
actually going to be torture for you if
Right.
you
Yeah.
have the ability, but you cannot use that ability. So for me, it's like you think about, if you have all the wisdom in the world, but you see the suffering of people, the suffering of the people around you, of anyone, but you cannot help them. To me, this is torture.
Yeah.
So for these nurses, I think they have a big heart. God give them a big heart, right? They have to give the TLC because that is what they are made for. And so I
Mhm.
think, because from our perspective, it's very hard because we cannot take their place because we don't have that capacity, but they do. And when they do have a capacity, I don't think they could do anything else. They wouldn't want to do anything else other than, hey, I
No,
have
they
the
don't.
ability to do TLC. That's what I'm gonna do. So I think all in all, we need to also understand and be happy for them that they're able to fulfill their,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
um, you know, I guess, desire in a way, whatever you have, right? Because for us, I think deep down, as a core level, we have an innate desire to share. So whatever you have, you're going to share. Let's say you have a great idea, you're going to share. Well, you have a big heart, you want to share. You have an answer you want to share, right? If I say, hey, I'm struggling with this, I'm struggling with that, and you know something, hey, I know this CBD thing that's going to help you with shoulder. I'll tell true about it, right? So
Right.
that's the thing is, when you have something, sharing is actually giving you that connection.
It is.
That
Yeah.
the connection is the joy. So I think that, yes, it is a very, very tough job for the person who's not fitted, but it's actually a fulfilling job if you are you have the right capacity, the right faculty to do the TOC, like you say, the rose in the no man's land. Yes, when you look from that perspective, it's a rose in the no man's land, right? That is very, very grim. But there is a rose in the no
Right.
man's land. But that rose would not want to grow anywhere else,
That's true.
right?
That's true. I mean, yeah, you're right.
Because, like,
I
let's
mean,
say
it's
it's a rose in a harsh of winter or whatever. That rose will only grow there
right.
because that rose was needed there, and it was created for that purpose. And
Yeah.
without the ability to grow there, it did not able to fulfill its purpose. Therefore, that particular rose would not be satisfied. So I think we want to look from that perspective. That's why I think if you look from that perspective, you can feel, I guess safe. I don't know about safe, but in a way, safe to be who you are. Hey, I am a beaver. I must do my part.
Right.
There are other people who have other faculties that will do their part, and we are all part of the ecosystem. That way, we are symbiosis or another. That's what we are. This is the reason why human is an apex animal in the animal kingdom, is because we are symbiosis. You think about all the things that we able to share with each other to be able to, CRISPR comes about, right? The pandemic came. I mean, how it came, for what reason it came, we don't know, and it could be by, like I say, all the stars are aligned, all the criteria has been, turned on at some point and at aligns, and it creates this pandemic. But there is somebody who say, hey, I have saw this CRISPR technology. Now we're able to not
lessen the impact, but not
lessen the impact.
yeah,
I mean, we still here. We're not. We hasn't, extinct ourselves from the face of the earth.
Right.
Right. And I think,
and actually, Jennifer Doudna is a Doudna is a great example of that. Like, she was obsessed with RNA. Like, why? I don't know. She gave up everything to study this stuff, to move to different places, to do whatever. Like, this was her obsession. This is what made her happy, and that's how we got CRISPR. I mean, she's not the only piece of this puzzle. Like Dannon yogurt, like, Dannon fucking yogurt was like one of the biggest pieces of this whole puzzle, because bacteria matters a lot to yogurt makers, right? And they've tracked for hundreds of years since they've been making Dannon yogurt. Like the different types of bacteria that they've had to fight against and to protect against, and how they've gone away or not gone away, and like, whatever. Like, they had all this data that they've been tracking because they're trying to figure it's things that but they loved fucking yogurt, right? It's like, you never know when your contribution is gonna be,
exactly. This is why this is
right.
the point of Clubberny is,
right,
you are valuable to somebody at some point in time. Because Jennifer Doudna say, well, I love doing these things, whether it has any application in the future. I'm not looking for money. I'm looking for the knowledge of, I am obsessed for some reason. But when the time comes, she becomes a hero. Same thing with the nurses, right? Back in the days, nurses don't have a role, but now they are the roles in no man's land.
Right.
So the thing is, when you have
how hospitals can even function without nurses at this point in time. Can you imagine a hospital filled with no nurses and just doctors?
Well, there were nurses. There were in the past. There were no nurses.
I know. So I'm saying,
and there's only doctors.
Can you imagine what that would be?
More people die.
I wouldn't even want to go to the hospital. I'd be like, whatever, that's fine. Like, I'm
well,
good.
The thing
like,
is,
I'm gonna die. I'll just die.
When you go to the hospital, right? It's basically a place for you to wait to die. Yeah. That's what happened in the past when there's no nurses, and nurses are talking about, until the discovery of the bacteria and the microbes and all that, right? People don't wash their hands and all that. You go to the hospital, you actually are almost guaranteed to die.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was a death sentence. Like, actually, you ever heard of the whole child bed fever? Have you ever heard of that before? So this was in, I think, I want to say it was in Ireland, I think, is where like it first started like raging, and or maybe it was Edinburgh or something, Scotland, one of those areas, right? And they were trying to go get, I think it was the Catholic Church or some church was trying to get like all the prostitutes to go to the safe hospital to birth their kids, from like prostitution or whatever. And then they were all go and they would fucking die. And everybody that didn't, that had kids back at home and totally whatever, they were fine. I mean, not fine, but their mortality rates was like drastically low. And you're like, holy shit. Like, I mean, this is like a death sentence. You go to the hospital to have a kid and you fucking die. I mean, like, and it's to your point, it's just, it was horrible. I mean, it was like, I wouldn't want to go to the hospital. Like, now, like, even if there was, I know for a fact, just given what we've experienced in the past few years, I saw a doctor about if 24 hours in the day, if I was awake and I was watching over my children, I saw a doctor less than 3% of the time of the 24-hour period of time. The rest of the time it was nurse all day, every day, next to my kid's side. Like, I mean, they were on call.
I've been there. I believe it. I mean,
Right.
the doctor shows up for like 15 minutes, like, and he comes back in 3 days. Like, okay.
Yep.
And all the time the nurse comes in every 15 minutes. Hey, I need to check I need to check your vitals. I need to do this. And I mean, they are the one that's there. They are the one that you see. And like I say, the road is no man's land. What I'm saying is, it is nice and safe knowing that there are people with special capacities and abilities that will do their part to make the ecosystem go round. And I think that's going to give you a sound mind and a warm heart to do your job, whatever that is, whether you're a painter, whether you're a fisherman, whether you're a soap maker, whether you're, whatever that is you do, just do your part. You will contribute to society just by doing what you do best.
Yep.
Knowing that you are made for that, and there are other people who are made for other stuff. So I wouldn't worry about the nurses that say, well, there's certain things that I can't do, but they can because they have that special, ability to do so. And I thank God they're there, but I would not be. I don't feel bad for them because they're not in a bad position.
Oh yeah, they're doing what they love. I mean, you're right. I mean, I don't see how you could endure that if you didn't love it.
You cannot endure it because it you put me there, I wouldn't last more than a day. Yeah, I cannot last more than a day because
I agree. I don't think I can last.
I can't even be. I mean, as a patient, or as a relative of a patient, I mean, hospital scares me.
Dude.
And so
most terrifying place ever.
So I don't know if I can be a nurse. I cannot. I cannot be a nurse, and so that's why I don't have that ability, but they do, and so feel good knowing that they are equipped.
Yes.
So don't feel bad for them because that doesn't do them justice. Because let them do what they like to do, what they are meant to do, what they are made to do. And so you feel good about doing your part, whatever that is.
And that's something that only humans are uniquely.
You could be a joke, a comedian, right? Bring laughter to the world, or whatever. It doesn't matter. Do what you do. Don't feel bad for what you do, and don't feel bad for other people who have to do things that you wouldn't want to do.
I think it's an amazing point. I two final thoughts for me really fast. Do you know any nurses just personally in your life that's like, close to you by any chance?
I know two people that my sister-in-law is a nurse and my sister is a nurse.
Yep.
So
and how are they like as humans, just in general? I mean, like, growing up when you're with your sister growing up, like how was she as a how was she growing up? Like what was could you tell that she was always meant to be a nurse? You know what I mean? Like, it's what I'm asking.
Well, for me, my sister is always my sister.
Right. Yeah, but you could see the way that she.
Well, my sister-in-law, when I see her, it's more of a gentle side versus right. My sister is my sister because she's my sister, right? It's one of those things where you have a different look on your sister. But my sister-in-law, when I see her from an outsider perspective, she's more on a gentle side, right? Versus the side that is quick to anger and all this, which is I can't do that, right? Yep. I am very straightforward, right? If I'm mad, I'm mad. If I'm not, I'm not. If so, I'm not good at soothing people.
Right. Right. No, I mean, I believe it. I totally understand that. I would never classify you as a soother. I guess
I'm a straight shooter, but I'm not a soother.
Well, you'd probably be an okay doctor. Because doctors are.
Well, the thing is that
Zero, have zero, have zero,
this
have
is the
zero
reason
ability to.
why you need people like doctors, and you need people like me, and you
Yep.
need because I think for me, because I am almost unattached in a way, I can make very objective decisions. You
Right.
can ask me something, I can give you objectively.
Yep.
These are the options, right? And you choose whatever, and I would not interfere with you,
Yep. Actually,
right?
it's so funny you say that. Like it's hilarious you say that because I used to always ask the nurses for Amelia and Luca's nurses. I would ask them, why don't you guys? Because I love asking questions, right? And I love
Mm-hmm.
learning. So this is I did it while I was in the NICU with them all the time. I'd ask every question you could ever imagine about their care and the machinery and the equipment. How does
Mm-hmm.
it work? What's the impact? What's it? Blah blah blah. Like I would talk to these people all day long. They knew a lot. They knew everything for the most part, and they were
Mm-hmm.
very smart. The nurses were right.
Right.
And then the doctor would come in and he would bark some orders, and we after I had been talking to the nurses for like days about, well, what if we did this? What if we did that? Why did we do this? Why did we do this? Like, and they would give me all these great answers, and they would give me all the reasons behind it, and they would humor me, they would talk to me, yada yada yada. The doctor would come in, he would say whatever, and then they would kind of just docilely step back and let the doctor do what he does. And then as soon as they would walk out of the room, I'm like, you told me about that 2 days ago. Why, like why don't they just listen to what you got? Why don't you guys just make the directions, of what to do? And they were like, oh no, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that. And like,
Right.
because to your point, they're like, they may understand. They're like, this is my lane. I just like to care, like, and I'm going to let them do
And
what
the
they
thing
do
is,
because I don't want to own that,
yeah,
Right.
to your point, like the nurses can do everything a doctor could.
Right.
The only thing they could not do is make the decisions.
That's correct.
Because they want
They don't
because
want to.
they and the thing is, for one, it is their strength and it's also their weakness. Their
Yes.
strength is they're able to attach and connect with you, and because they attach and connect with you, they cannot be unbiased.
Yes.
Right? Because
That's
you say,
exactly
hey,
right. Yeah.
there are other patients out there, right? What if I were to contain a pandemic? You can't rely on a nurse to contain a pandemic because whoever come and ask them, it's what they're gonna give you, right? They're
Right.
gonna give you all the medicine. Say, hey, you need this. Even though there are like 100,000 people that are not there that haven't talked to them, will be
Right.
coming in and say, well, these guys are going to create more chaos. So that's who this is. The strength and the weakness. Their strength is they're able to connect, but because they connect, they have empathy.
Yes. They
Right?
could. They
They
can't
have
own this
sympathy.
stuff. They
They have
cannot cut
sympathy, so
themselves off of it. Right.
they cannot own it. They
They
cannot
can't
say, well,
detach. Yeah.
they can detach. So if you plead with them, they will. I mean, so it's the emotion versus the overall. So that's why sometimes in a certain position, you have to be detached. Something with programming, you have to be detached. You have to be very objective because you say, well, what would a fucking computer do, right?
Yep.
Versus, hey, how would a computer feel, right? A computer doesn't feel, so you cannot think like that. You have to think in a way that is detached for you to become a good programmer if you want to be in the programming field and the logic field, right?
Right.
But if you something with the nurses, right? They have the ability to, let's say you have the, let's say you are very like sensitive to people's feeling, right? Let's just say you're very sensitive to people's feeling. I mean, you can feel their feeling. So that means that you go around people, you say, hey, he's happy, so you're happy. You have to kind of match the level of energy. When a person comes happy, you're happy. But when you found a person that is not happy, your energy goes down because you feel it. So you're gonna be sad all the time. So everything in the universe, their strength is also a weakness. It depends on how you use it and it depends on the perspectives.
That was where I was going with my second point of all this is when I asked you about if you personally know any nurses. My aunt Christy, who's sadly no longer with us, she passed away probably been at least 6-7 years ago now. She was an RN. She was the most caring person you will ever meet in your life, ever. Like it was unreal. She spent every summer with us growing up. She was my babysitter growing up. She, I mean, that lady like would give, if you asked her for her leg because you needed it, she would give you her leg. I mean, and when she wouldn't even think about it, she'd be like, okay, fine, I'll figure it out. Like here's my leg. I mean, like she.
And that's what I'm saying is, when they attach to you, logic went out the window.
It did, yeah. I mean, it was unbelievable, like how much she gave, and why she was such an amazing nurse. She was an incredible nurse, but you know what like you said, the strength is always the weakness. The one thing that she didn't care for her entire life was herself, which is, you know, I don't know if you've ever noticed this. A lot of medical professionals are horrible about caring for their own self. Like especially nurses. Like I mean, they always put other people first. Always. Like that is
Like I
their
say,
default.
if
You
you
know,
ask for a leg, she give you a leg, and so
she would
that's
do
what
it.
I'm saying is it's like, well, I don't think about, okay, I would be able to provide more care if I have my leg, right?
Right.
But if you ask for a leg, she'll give you a leg, and that's the thing is that
Without even
that
thinking.
sacrifice is a strength, but it's also a weakness. And
Exactly. And
so that's what I'm saying is it's not that they cannot be doctors, they don't know what to do. They probably know
oh, they know
more
more
than the
than
doctors
they
because
definitely
they're
know more.
there
Right.
in the
They've
room, in
seen
the
it. They
trenches.
live it.
They
Yeah.
see everything.
Right.
They probably have more insight than the
Yep.
doctors,
Oh yeah.
but they cannot make decisions because
Yep.
they are so much attached to the situations or
Yep.
the connections, and so that becomes, you know, the arbitrage on their shoulders.
Right. That was the man. Talk about the one saving grace I will always remember. Anytime you ever find yourself in, if you ever find yourself in a hospital and you're in a serious situation, like the one saving grace that I can always hang my hat on, knowing how empathetic nurses are and how much they care. You do not ever need to be afraid unless you see your nurses afraid. I mean, I cannot stress this to people more. Like, important is if they're not scared, then you don't need to be scared, because trust me, they will be more scared than you, you know, when it's scary time comes, right? You know, like they just do everything more than you know, like they feel more than you. They feel they're if they're not
Yeah,
worried,
they
do
know
not
more than
to
you.
be worried, right?
They know more than you, and they're first to know. And they are the first one to know because
They
if they
feel
sense
everything,
something,
right?
they
Yes,
know. And so
right.
if they're like, hey, you know, they're not in a hurry, it's because there's nothing to worry about.
Yes, they would be. It's unbelievable how much you can gauge the situation just by watching them and their emotions, you know. And like, it's not like they're out of control emotions. They just know when it's serious and when it's not, you know. Like, I mean, they've done this a million. Like, there's no way you could be in that environment for 20 plus years, and do it every single day if you didn't have some way to regulate your you know, not care levels, because they're always caring, but like that panic level, right? Because in theory, every single person that walks into that room for the first time is a panic of a 10, you know, 9.5, you know, most likely, when as soon as they like they're at like a 2, you know, because if they lived every day at a 9.5, like they would never be able to wake up and come to work the next day, right? Like, so like they've seen it all, they've done it all, they've experienced it all, and they care more than you, and they understand more. So like it's just, if you ever find yourself in that situation, just look at the nurse, like, and she will tell you like what's gonna happen, you know, like should I be worried, you know, like, and if you're not, then you're good. But yeah. All right, so that's kind of my general final thoughts, I guess. Any final thoughts on your end?
Yeah, thank you for the rose in the no man's land.
Agreed. They're incredible. Yeah. It's thanks for being there, honestly, like for all of them. Like, they're,
well, thank God for making them.
Yeah, I mean, yes. I mean, you know, I don't think about my Aunt Christy as much as I should, and I should, because she was incredible, and like, you know, she's one of those people, and like I said in here, Stacy, Lori, Joni, Raina, Jessica, Emily, Charity, Molly, like all these people, like, I mean, I think of them, when I think of their names, like a smile comes to my face, because I can see them, and I can see what they did for me and for my family, and I can see how much they care, and I know as soon as I talk to them, you know, I told you my little secret today about, you know, Felicia's expecting again, potentially, and hopefully, you know, whatever happens,
Not
happens,
a
right?
secret anymore.
Yeah, well, not a secret anymore, but you know, she when we had Luca, she went to the high risk OB. Her name was Dr. Seifries. She's was at Riley's Hospital for Children, where both the kids were. You know, she's you know, I don't know. she's an incredibly nice, caring doctor, because she's almost like a doctor nurse, because she deals with very, very, very touchy situations with people that are very emotional. So she's almost like a doctor nurse. It's bizarre. It's kind of weird. She's like a weird hybrid between the two, because she cares so much. So Felicia called and talked to her today, and I overheard her conversation because she had her on speakerphone, and she was talking to Dr. Seyfried, because normally she's like the head of all the maternal fetal medicine clinic at this hospital, and she doesn't usually ever talk to patients unless she's like it's her patient and she has to talk to them, and she usually lets coordinators and shit like that handle it. But she heard that Felicia had called in, and she has a soft spot in her heart for her and our family, just knowing what we've gone through. And I heard her saying this, like she was like, I had to pick up the phone when I knew it was you. Like she was like, I just she was like, I'm just there's something about you and your family, and I don't know, I just
I mean, once you have that connection, that drives you.
It is,
right?
And it's all these people, like we're connected forever, like and ever and ever and ever, to all these people, all these professionals, all these people that have been with us at our worst and our best, and yeah, I mean I'll never forget them. I mean, I will never, for the rest of my life. I mean, if I have a daughter, Raina might be one of her names. Maybe her middle name, I'm not sure. My wife and I, we talked about this a lot. Raina was there with Amelia on her last night, and Raina is a very special place in our heart. She's an amazing person, and I don't know how she did that. I don't know how we did it, but I don't know how she did it. Honestly, I really don't. And I mean, like, that's how much I feel connected to some of these people. There's nobody else in this world that I would ever even think about naming my daughter or son after, other than maybe my parents. I mean, I don't give a shit about like enough about anybody else in this world to be like, oh yeah, I need to name him Pete, like after my grandfather. He was the best. It's like I don't fucking care. I mean, Pete's a great guy, but like not,
stem after Steve.
Right.
It's like, yeah, man, Elon.
Right. Yeah. Name him. Yeah. Elon. Right. No. I mean, but
you have a Tesla. You have a Tesla.
I do, and I have.
I
have an iPhone. I mean, and
you
I'm
have
on a Mac.
Yeah. Why you name after Steve?
Because I don't give a shit. Because I don't have a connection to them. But these people, I do. These people changed my life and touched my life. And
that's our point. Now, our point is, let us be human beings, right? We're not a number. We're not just an object, right? We need to be human beings. Human beings need to have
each
connections,
other. Yeah.
Right? That connections is what make us human beings. And so that, to me, at the end of the day, is what's important, because only when you're at your deathbed, you think about the thing that matters. We today don't think about these things. We think about all the things that doesn't matter at all, right?
Yeah, really dumb shit.
Hey, I want an extra, extra piece of cupcake. I want an extra pizza. I want an extra dollars. I want to.
I'm worried about taking my DirecTV boxes to the FedEx, and where am I going to get time to go do that? And you're like, well,
exactly.
A lot of trains.
Yeah. Keep y'all, right? Hey, make your quota. That does not matter. That does not make you human beings. But these activities do. What we do, right? We are beaver. We build dams. That makes us human beings. Beaver beings. But, you get my point.
Yep. Agreed. Well, hopefully this conversation helps other people. And thanks for joining, as always. And the question we can share with you is, how can you share a little TLC to help ease the suffering of people in your life? Or do whatever you got to do. Share yourself.
Be who you got to be.
Yeah.
Right. That is the TLC to the world.
Yes. Exactly. I think that's a great way to end it. Great comment. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Sounds good. Good night, everybody.